Hey, good day. How are y'all today? This is Greg Lewis, the city manager here in Lebanon, New Hampshire. We're very pleased to be with you today. We're going to really have some fun today talking with our Planning Commission chair and our senior planner. And you know, the Planning Commission is such a critical piece of our delivery of services to you as citizens. Our citizen volunteers who join that committee provide a really valuable service, and so you'll learn a little bit more. I'd like to have you pay special attention to what we'll be talking about, because there's something that you might want to be interested in. I mean, we're encouraging every citizen to be more involved in committees and in different task forces and things that are going on in our city. And you'll see as we discuss in this segment, we'll kind of give a revealing, and if you think it piques your interest, come to a planning board meeting and sit in on a few of them and see what you think. With that, welcome Larry, welcome David. Let's just go around and talk a little bit about who we are and how you end up in the present positions. We're going to start with you, Larry.
My name is Larry LeClair, and I've been on the planning board for 5 years. And I was elected chair 2 years ago. And during that period of time, of course, the planning board worked on a great deal of things, including the new master plan and new zoning regs, and also worked with a lot of people to do about 2.5 million square feet of residential and various projects for the city of Lebanon. And so in those instances, we had a great deal of meetings. I think 2 years ago we had 35, 40 meetings in 1 year. We're only supposed to have 24. But it all worked out. Everything happened. I think that for the most part, everyone on the commission was happy with the results. So that's really superb. You know, the scope of the planning board's work, as we'll delve into some more during our visiting. I just think that's really an incredible scope. I mean, this is when people always say, "Well, this is not a sleepy little village. This is really a bustling, vibrant place." And in order to do it in the manner in which we hope to do it, the activities of the planning board is really critical. So I'm really pleased, you know, that our planning board has hung in there and trying to deal with these things, because these are not ordinary events that a lot of cities or towns experience. That's very true. And with the help of David and all of the planners in the city, I have found that we have been able to move through things in very good order, and it's always helped. For David to be able to step in and say, maybe you should think about this.
Yeah, it's always wise. One of the wisest, when I used to being a county manager and then being a city attorney, I think one of the wisest statements was always pay attention to your staff. Because, I mean, I've served on boards and committees, and when I come to the table, I bring my citizen role, and I'm a citizen leader, but I'm not necessarily, I have the time because I have my own world, my own jobs, my own place in the community, and so when I come to it, while I do try to do my homework, I could never do it in the detail that we have for our staff, and that's why we have our staff.
Correct.
Dave, why don't you tell a little bit about yourself? I think you were with me on a previous occasion, a previous year, recently, I believe.
Yes. My name is David Brooks. I'm the senior planner. I've been with the city for a little over 8 years now, and my primary focus with the city is working with the planning board on the current development review procedures, all of the site plans and subdivisions and boundary line adjustment applications that come through. My job is to work with the applicant to get them prepared, get them to submit all the information that's needed that the board is going to need to make an informed decision, and then help the board to make that informed decision. So
when you're kind of the shepherd and trying to shepherd the the issues to serve the people wishing to do the development, as well as the public, in terms of the interests of the public,
Right.
and put enough information and facts before the planning board for them to consider it and do their due deliberations and carry on their duties and responsibilities. Could you just mention, David, the kind of a little bit of abbreviated outline of the points of milestones when someone comes into our midst? Someone shows up at the planning office and says, I have this development and I wish to pursue this development. Sure. What's the milestones that people would face?
Sure. We try to have people come to us as soon as they've got the idea, as soon as they're thinking of purchasing a property and with an idea.
Is earlier better than later?
Earlier is always better than later in terms of figuring out what's going to be allowed, what the process is going to need to be. As soon as they've got an idea, they can come to us to have some conceptual meetings, some pre-application meetings. They can meet with all the different departments, and the planning office helps to coordinate with the building and codes, the engineers, public works, fire, and police to make sure everybody has an opportunity to weigh in at the earliest possible opportunity as to what an applicant should be aware of, what they might plan into their project. As soon as they've gotten all of that feedback, if the applicant wants to keep going, there's an application process that it normally takes a 1 month. For small to medium-sized projects, it's a 1 month review process. Basically, from the application, there's an in-house staff review. We relay comments back to the applicant and say, please get us this additional information or make these minor changes. That material comes back, and then the final information, the application materials, go to the board 7 to 10 days before their meeting so that they have time to do their homework and be prepared the night of the meeting. And staff does its best to identify what we think are the important points that the board should be looking at when they make a decision.
Try to bring the salient points out and try to highlight them so that, and then the board itself might find some other points, but at least you're providing that extra, here's some items that we think it should be percolated up so that the board can see those.
Yep.
When's the first time now, Larry, do you see, what's the stages that you see these efforts? I suppose it varies because the projects vary.
It does vary, but basically David and I work together prior to meetings to look at where we are and how are things going to be moving forward, where the real headaches and things could be, and basically I see the product, as David said, about 7 to 10 days prior to the time we have the meeting. So the board members have plenty of time to sit and work and look at, make notes, and bring up things that maybe were not in the thing. One of the things you have to remember is when you walk through that door, you're looking at things differently than you would be if you were standing outside as a citizen.
Yes, I think that's really hard. Sometimes it's hard for people to grasp. I would say there's the Greg Lewis that's hanging around with the English Bulldog and the Golden Retriever and the Poodle and the big Maine Coon cat and a lovely wife. And I'm one person there. When I come and walk in the door and become the city manager, I'm another person. Because the citizens too, for the people's interests, they don't want me to be the same Greg Lewis as I am. And they want me. They may not understand they want me, but they need me to play this role. And the planning board's very much the same way. I know you get a lot of. And sometimes I hear flack being thrown toward the planning board. As well as planning staff, because maybe sometimes it's hard to understand.
Well, I mean, one of the big things that we do is we invite abutters to come in and talk to us about what they perceive this project is going to do to them. And a lot of times an abutter will come in and say, oh, well, traffic is going to stop me from being able to get out of my driveway, and those types of things. And those things, David and I and everyone work together to try to make those not so that they're going to cause a real problem in the city.
I know there's quite a spectrum of the type of work in terms of these projects coming forward. I mean, we've already had some significant ones, and then we have this. We have one that are important to an individual as they would be for a very big developer. Mm-hmm. And you see different. Do you see all sizes and shapes when you see your projects? Would that be correct?
Absolutely. From a boundary line adjustment between adjoining property owners who just want to sell one bit of land between themselves. They need to adjust that line. That has to come to the planning board, all the way up to the very large scale projects, development projects that the planning board has seen at least 3 of those large scale projects in the last 3 or 4 years.
I think it is extraordinary to have that many large projects in the kind of, that's one of our issues about being a hub, being a 15,000, 13,000 resident hub with a certain number of parcels. But our projects, they're very significant. I mean, that's not something that you would normally see elsewhere, at least in my experience. So we're a bit unusual.
Yeah, we are. And one of the good things about that is that a lot of the members of the board are experienced and know the regulations and know, really where we stand when we start a $700,000 a square foot, property, and it's very interesting to go around the table and listen to the history and listen to what the people on the board know from their experience in the city.
What do you think, Larry, are the critical issues facing the planning board? We've gone through a number of iterations of work and approaches. We've developed the master plan. With the leadership of the board and the great support of the planning team, we put together a master plan. The citizens felt comfortable. We adopted it, but now we're implementing it. But at the same time, the conveyor belt has not stopped. We're seeing projects at a continuous rate. If critical issues were, asked of you, what would be some of the critical issues you might see?
Well, some of the one of the probably the most critical issue is that we have approved a group of projects over the past couple of years that now the developer has found that he does not have the ability, because of the lack of tenants, to complete the project. So now, in some instances, they're coming back to us and they're asking us to extend or asking us to make a change, and I think those are critical because we need to make sure that when we do something like that, we haven't really fouled up the entire project, and we haven't really fouled up the city, because we have to make sure that that project, when the tenants come along, is going to work within what we have approved.
It seems to me, I use more of the word art than science in some of this because of the nuances and trying to make those adjustments. The marketplace seems like there's lots of windows on marketplace in terms of what might happen, and it's a moving target, and yet people at the particular time it looks very favorable, but then later there may be changed conditions, whatever they may be, and then they have to see if that project is viable as it's presently constructed, and if they have to revise it, they have to then come back and get the revisions.
Yes.
Right. The critical issues from your part, David, and looking at what's come through our planning board.
I think what the planning staff is working on is continuing to improve our regulations and our procedures. From time to time, you hear that a project took longer than somebody wanted, longer than the applicant. It always takes longer than the applicant wants, but longer than even the board would like for some of these, for any scale of project. And so I'm continually looking at how to best streamline the approval process and the review process, so that the information can be pulled together by the applicant and reviewed by the board in the most expedited and efficient manner. And then in terms of the regulations themselves, making sure we stay on top of changes in technology. For example, stormwater management. There's been a lot of improvements over the last decade or so in how stormwater management is treated, and wanting to build those requirements and regulations into the site plan and subdivision regulations so that we can take advantage of those improvements.
Yeah, I think we're kind of adjusting our systems that we have in place, and we're trying to find systems that will work better with the kind of outcomes that we're seeing being requested of us. Other things you see, Larry, from your perspective,
Well,
in terms of issues that we should talk about.
I think that one of the other things that we're trying to work on when we do a project is to make sure that we in fact have the ability for residents to move around and through the property, you know, walking trails and bike trails and stuff like that we've put into various projects that in fact will make not only the project work better, but also if someone wants to ride their bike along the river, they're able to do that. And I think that those are the types of things that David is working on, and that we're trying to get included in some of these new projects. And
I think that's really interesting, because you know, when we read things, we're thinking about the future. I mean, while we're trying to make the past, we're trying to, you know, do the kind of service and protection, but we have to have our minds focused so we think about the future too, the changing of the generations and how people would like to live. I saw some studies that indicated that people chose where they're, you know, more based on location and place than they do on like vocation, like your job. Because in my day, my generation, I would go where the job is.
That's right.
And that's the kind of, I followed my path to go to different jobs. But my 20-something children are more likely to say, is this a cool community? And then they say, what a cool community. I can walk in my cool community. I can bike. I don't always have to commute. I live in a drivable area, and I enjoy having things that are the betweeners between work and play. There's things that help us bridge, and they just live in this kind of, and sometimes virtual, because they got their, you know, I always know people have smartphones in their hands at all times. Right. So, yes. Any thoughts about our future as we have our last 3 minutes here, about what's on the horizon, and both what you think is and what you wish could be for our future and planning? It's always good. It's a good chance to both be real and then also be a little bit just what's in that future we have.
Well, I think a lot of the big projects that have been approved in the last few years they're designed to be built out over the next 15 or 20 years. So we've got a pretty good idea of what's coming down the pipe in terms of future buildings, future traffic, future water and wastewater usage, those kinds of things. I think we've got an idea of what's coming, and that gives us a better opportunity to plan for it.
That's great.
As long as we can continue to make those projects incorporate the technology as it improves over the years, and keep those sort of cutting edge technologies in the process, that gives us a pretty good future.
From your perspective, Larry?
I totally agree with David, and I agree with you, because you know, when I grew up, driving around town was good, but now when I drive around town, I look at people riding their bikes around town, and I think that in the future, that's what we have to make sure. We have to make sure that the projects that we have approved, when they come on board, they deal with the facts of the city in the next 10 or 15 years.
At that time, yep.
Yeah. And a couple of caveats as we began: come earlier than later. Don't necessarily spend a lot of money on your plans.
Right.
Because that's really frustrating.
That's right.
Come to us with the idea.
If you spend a great deal of money and then you come in, I think the starting point ought to be, you come in with your ideas, your concepts, your visions, and say, this is what I want to achieve. Yep. And then our people will work with you. And I think the planning board is giving that messaging too.
Oh yes, we love to see a concept come before us so that we can look at it before they come in and we have to really start working on it.
Yeah. Yep. I think that just makes it, if we could do that, and we of course will work on ourselves, but if everyone could work on themselves about this whole idea about how you come into that situation. You save money, you'll save heartache, you'll save frustration, you'll save black and white arguments and win-lose. We prefer everyone to win. We want everyone to win.
Correct.
And that's just what we should be about, and we want to help you. Sure. But we need earlier and before, and we want to save some money.
Yep.
Right. Absolutely.
As we began the program, we talked about joining our planning board. And I know there's variety, Larry, that you can come on the board. people start observing, that's a good place to start. Talking to a planning board member, I'm sure our planning board members would be willing to visit with you if you
Absolutely.
give you
I'd
some
be very-
enlightenment about how it feels. And some people join by becoming an alternate first, and
Yes.
then sit in and get their feet wet, and then become full regular later after they feel comfortable.
And we have 3 alternate positions open right now.
So there's opportunity right now.
Right.
But you, like we all do, is we have to do our due diligence for ourselves, because it is a significant commitment.
Yes.
You described it. Hopefully we'll get more proficient and not consume as much time.
Right.
But the projects are there, and that takes a lot of time to do it right.
Yep.
If you want to apply for being a member of the Planning Commission, we encourage you to do so. The process for joining it is very simple. All you have to do is you have to complete a very brief form, application form. You'll be interviewed by 2 of our city council members, and then your application will go to the full council. The council may, under the charter, I nominate, so I will nominate. The council will consider and approve. And there's online, you'll find a board member application, and you'll also find a set of board member duties and how you become a member. So look at our website. Call Sandy Allard at 448-3054. She's our city clerk. She really does our coordinating on setting up members. So as we say in planning, plan and do and act, and then volunteer to be look into this and join us. I think Larry would like company.
I would like to have company.
Yeah, and I know David would like some more fine citizens to come forward to work with. So we're so take it into consideration. Larry, I want you to thank you so much for being here, and thanks for all the work the planning board does.
Yes.
Thanks for your leadership as the chair. David, thank you as always. We'll have you back for another topic.
Sure,
I'm sure
absolutely.
we'll get you out here.
Anytime.
So everyone, have a great day here in Lebanon, and remember, we believe in excellent planning here. Excellent planning. Thanks.